Good afternoon from San Antonio, Texas. Today we're joined by the head coach of US Men's National Team, Gregg Berhalter, to discuss the 25-player roster for the January camp. Just a couple notes as we get started. The team will begin gathering January 7th in Orlando with the first training session on January 8th. We'll train from the 8th to the 16th in Orlando before departing for San Antonio for the match on January 20th against Slovenia. As always, if you'd like to get in a queue to ask a question, you may do so by virtually raising your hand. And we're going to begin with questions and start with Henry Bushnell from Yahoo.
Thanks, Michael. Can you guys hear me all right?
We can.
Great. Greg, appreciate your time. Sorry to start off with a question unrelated to the January roster, but I think this is the first time we've had a chance to talk to you since US Soccer chose the site for the Atlanta Training Center, which I know is something you talked about a while back, just the concept of a national training center. But I'm wondering, I mean, how involved, if at all, were you in just like the talks around that? And B, like, I know it's probably years down the line, but how would you envision the men's national, the senior men's national team using that facility?
Yeah, so first of all, Happy New Year to everyone out there. It's good to see everybody again. And Happy New Year, Henry. But in terms of the training center, this was really a passion project of Cindy Cohn and JT. And they really drove this thing. And it was interesting to see because you have side conversations and you talk about the possibility of it, and you never really know if it's going to come to fruition. And it was through the hard work of both JT and Cindy that this got done. And of course, with the backing of Arthur Blank and Dan Cathy and the whole Atlanta community. So it's a huge step for U.S. Soccer, and not only for the men's national team and the women's senior national teams, but for the whole program. And to be able to have youth programs there, training, to have all the coaches together, to have sports science and medical and everyone tied into the same facility. It's really a springboard, I think, for development and for learning. The way I envision the men's program using it is, I could see the guys, coming into camp, coming to Atlanta, and training in our facility for a couple of days, and then either flying out to go play our first game of the window, or perhaps even playing in Atlanta for the first game of the window. So either scenario, for us to have a home base where the guys feel comfortable, the guys know the routine, the guys have the proper recovery modalities is going to be a big step. Right now, we're forced to train to use other people's facilities, and sometimes it's difficult coordinating training times, and everyone has different layouts and different sizes and what have you. But this will give us the opportunity to have it for ourselves.
Next will be Stephen Goff from the Washington Post.
Greg, Happy New Year.
Thanks.
Wondering, did you make any attempts with clubs in Europe or elsewhere in the world for players, as I guess is done on occasion with a few guys, younger players who aren't playing regularly for first teams, or was that not tried this time?
There were a couple players, literally one or two players that we, Griffin Yao, you know him well from DC. We talked to his club, and initially they were into it, and then they got a new coach, so he had to be there. So he wasn't. And then Puskas, who was playing in Croatia, we approached his club, and they both said no, which is fine. They have their priorities, and for us, it was being strategic about who we were going to call in this camp. And we moved on to the next group of players.
We'll go to Paul Tenorio from The Athletic.
Hey, Greg, with so many of the players based in Europe now and so many of the core of this team kind of established, how has picking a roster for January camp changed from when you first came in to now, and kind of the application of the January camp, the usefulness of it, and still trying to identify players who could grow into roles, even despite the youth of your pool as well? Thank you.
Yeah, I think there has been a change. I'm trying to pinpoint exactly what it is compared to the first January camp in 2019 to now being 2024. But one thing I'll say is we're grateful for the support of Major League Soccer. This would never happen without them. We're great for the support of the clubs who are releasing their players. And, it really is an opportunity, for, young players, MLS-based players to make their mark on this program. And it's always been like that. So that hasn't changed. Michael's mentioned that 9 of the players in the 2002 World Cup made their first appearance in a January camp. So, that's always been the case. And now, I would say we're skewing slightly younger. And it's still the same opportunity, though. And, again, I talked to the players about, setting objectives for themselves coming into this camp. What do they want to achieve here? Because, I don't want them just happy to be involved in this January camp. I want them really striving for goals. Do they want to make their debut in this camp? Do they want to push to be on Nations League roster, Copa America roster, Olympic roster? There's a lot of different opportunities for them in this camp, and I really want them focused on taking advantage of it.
We'll go to Ron Blum from the Associated Press.
Hey, Greg. Happy New Year.
Hey, Rob.
A couple of questions just on various injuries. What is Walker's injury? And do you have an update on Tyler's coming off the surgery? Was Zach under consideration, or did the transfer and the logistics not work out? And then lastly, watching Richard's use, does he become more of a candidate to fill in that defensive mid role given the way Palace is using him on the field?
I'll start with that one. I think it's incredible that Chris is doing that. I think it shows how strong-willed he is, and it says a lot about his character and his competitiveness that he can step on and fulfill a role for them and do quite well. Personally, I see him long-term still as a center back. But to know that you could have potential depth in that position does help things. He's playing in the Premier League as a central midfielder. So, that's always a good thing. Regarding Tyler, from everything I've heard, my conversation with him, progress is going well, and he's doing well with his recovery. We're excited about that. With Zach Steffen, I felt that, with the move, it's important for him to be with the club for preseason. Coming to a new club, we know he's going to play a big role with Colorado. I've talked to him about, his potential role with us, and he's very much in the pool of players, and we expect him to challenge for a position with the goalkeepers. So I think that's pretty clear for him. And then the last injury was who did you mention? Walker. Oh, Walker. Yeah. So Walker was, I think, up until beginning of January in a boot. His rehab is going to take a little bit longer. He had some Achilles injury that was healing, and they're taking precautions. And I spoke to him, and we made a plan. To keep him out of this camp.
Next will be Tom Timmerman from the St. Louis Post-Dispatch.
Hey, Greg, wanted to ask you about AEL Jackson, a guy who at the start of the year last season was playing MLS Next Pro games. I don't know what you've seen of his rise and his growing into his game and what you expect from him.
It's like other players, and I described this pathway that everyone has a different pathway, and it's really nice to see him and what he's done and how he's come on and made an impact for, a very, very strong, St. Louis team. So I think, it's interesting to work with guys like him, like Diego, who bring this unpredictability to the game. He's a dribbler, a playmaker. We're excited to see how he fits into what we're doing. But overall, really interesting player. Looking forward to working with him.
We'll go to Jonathan Tanel from the Philadelphia Inquirer.
Thanks, Michael. Greg, I wanted to ask, Ron asked about Zach Steffen. I'm also going to ask about Brandon Vasquez and whether you were tempted to bring him in.
He was on the prelim roster. And we had a lot of information on him, and for us it was really about understanding the player's trajectory and what could be going on with him and his career, but then also being able to evaluate other players. So for us to get a look at Brian White and Duncan McGuire was the priority in this camp. We've been playing mostly with one striker, and just to think about loading up that position in this camp didn't make much sense. So because of that, he wasn't selected. But we are pretty confident we're going to be seeing a lot of him. He's going to Monterey, and we're going to be following him closely.
Next will be Patrick Brenner from the Cincinnati Enquirer.
Hi, Greg. Happy New Year. Can you hear me okay?
I can. Hey, Patrick.
Okay. Miles Robinson, he'll be the elder statesman in this camp for you this month. His decision to sign with FC Cincinnati, stay in MLS, invited a lot of the usual debate we see when a player has maybe the opportunity to go to Europe but stays in MLS. I wonder if you had a reaction or an opinion about Miles' decision to sign with FC Cincinnati at this stage in his career and in the cycle.
When players talk to me about their next step, when they call me and ask me, some of them do, the first thing is always just trying to understand their motivation and what they want. And with Miles, it was no different. We talked through some of the potential options. We talked through his future and how we see him with the national team program. And ultimately he decided to sign for the Supporter Shield winners and a very strong team within MLS. And that's a personal choice that he makes. And all we can do now is continue to monitor him the same we do as every other player. And that's our commitment to the whole group. The expectations will be that he's a dominant center back in this league, that he performs at a really high level at this league. And I think he's well aware of that. And now it's just about seeing what he can do and how he can help Cincinnati.
Next is Mike Waitala from Soccer America.
Hi, thanks, Greg. Slovenia is also bringing in an experienced team with a lot of uncapped players. What do you expect from them, and how does that figure in? How does the opponent figure into how you assess the players? I imagine that it's not just the game, it's also maybe the practices and the trainings, but can you talk about the opponent some?
No, it will be the game, because if you can imagine, Mike, this is a team that's going to the Euros, right? And they're going to be in the same exact situation as our roster, right? Uncapped players, new guys to the program. They're going to have to fit in, show the coach. They're going to have to prove to the coach how they can fit into their system. And they're trying to make the team for the summer Euros. And so they're going to be extremely motivated. They're going to be just as inexperienced as us. And it's going to make for a really challenging contest. So I think that, the mental battle of the game versus Slovenia is going to be great, because we know this is a team that's going to really be trying to make an impression on their coaching staff. And they have some good players, domestic-based players, and for us, it's a very even type of matchup in this game.
Next is Ryan Talmadge from Goal.com.
Thank you, Michael, and hi, Greg. I wanted to ask about Cade Cowell. And obviously, this is someone that's been brought up through the ranks over the last few years, going from the U20s, now got a taste of the senior team really last year. So it seems like this is going to be a pretty big year for him. So I just wanted to ask where you kind of see him and what things he needs to work on, and where you kind of see him figuring as you enter this year, where he could kind of go in different directions with the Copa America or the Nations League, the Olympics, all these different tournaments.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't get ahead of ourselves here. With Cade, it's an example of he has a ton of potential. He's a great teammate. He has experience with the senior national team, but now it's also about him applying this in every day for his club, becoming a starter, becoming a high performer on his team, scoring, goals in the Major League Soccer is going to be important. And then when he gets the opportunity with our team, making an impact. And, for him, it's, straddling between, can he, make an impact for this Olympic age group is, can he perform at the levels that's needed to be an impact player there, and then see what's next. I think for us, it's really about supporting him and really giving him the opportunity to play his best, and then continue to watch how he develops at his club. But that's definitely going to be a crucial part of his development.
Next is Jeremiah Oshan.
Thanks. Just wanted to ask what you saw in two other first-time call-ups, Josh Atencio and Jackson Reagan, that made you want to include them.
Jackson's been, I think, one of the top passers as a center back in Major League Soccer. He's an imposing center back, great height, really strong. I'm really interested to work with him. We know there's things that he needs to continue to work on. I spoke to Coach Schmetzer at length about both him and Josh, and we're excited to see them both in camp. Josh has come on late and become a lockdown starter for Seattle, very good Seattle team. And, so for us, seeing is he more of a 6 or number 8 and seeing how he can, fit into what we do. But I think both of these players are young enough and, have earned this opportunity.
Next will be Sanjay Sujanthakumar.
You may be muted, Sanjay.
I think we got him.
Thanks, Michael. Thanks, Greg. Happy New Year to you both. Greg, question about James Sands. He's listed as a defender on this roster. He's shown his versatility before for club and country. Where could you see him making an impact during this cycle for the national team? And where do you see him at this point in his career in general? And then also one about Jack McGlynn, very talented player. What do you think he can bring to the national team program and at the senior level potentially? And where do you see him fitting in the midfield right now? Where do you think he could be a part of the senior team one day, or the varsity team as a midfielder at the highest level? Thank you.
We're going to find out. That's the beauty of this camp, working with young players who haven't been involved before with Jack and seeing what he can do and seeing how his skills translate to the senior level. There's no question he's talented. There's no question he has an eye for making passes that other players don't usually see. So now it's how does he put that together in the context of the full match and what's needed on both sides of the ball. So we're going to be able to see that. And with James, he's a guy that we're familiar with. We think is an excellent player. And, the challenge for James is, can he make that next step now? Can he make the step from being a potential guy to being a locking guy who gets selected on all these rosters? And I think this camp is a good opportunity for him to showcase his skills and to really try to make an impact on the program.
We'll go to Brian Shretta from American Soccer Now.
Thank you, Michael. Thank you, Greg. Happy New Year, guys. Two questions. First one is about the role of overage players at the Olympics. Have you started to have discussions with the players yet on potential options? How far are you from down that road? And what does this camp offer by way of maybe evaluating players for those specific roles? And then also Bernard Kongo, he has some Texas roots there. Incredible story. As a born in a refugee camp, came here with no English skills and he's worked where he is. Can you talk a little bit about his rise, what you've seen from him, and what his story means really to this team and really representing America like that? So those are the two questions I have. Thanks.
Yeah, that's a great question about Bernard. And, that's the beauty of this job, able to see these journeys that players take and then to end up, potentially representing the senior national team in a game is just a wonderful story. And, it's no secret that, I get a lot of information from Nico Estevez, the coach of Dallas. We're very close. And to, he called me in the beginning of the year and he said, I may have this guy that's interesting. We're going to have to wait to see how this whole year plays out. And sure enough, the kid just has a knack for scoring goals. He gets in front of goal and, he's very effective. And, those are qualities you can't teach. When I think about our wingers, particularly Christian, that's one of his main attributes that people overlook. Like, he scores goals. He's in position. He attacks the penalty box very well. And then he's able to finish off attacks in a very efficient way. And Bernard's no different. So it's going to be interesting to really work with him up close. He's been coming off of an ankle injury towards the end of the year. So we're going to have to see what his fitness is like, but really excited for him. And again, just an amazing feel-good type of story that he's involved in this camp.
We'll go to Garrett Melser.
Hi, Greg. I was going to ask about Bernard as well, but I'll ask about Enso Defar, just what you've seen from him over this last year, kind of a breakout year for him, and what you're hoping to see from this upcoming camp.
Yeah, another guy, late bloomer, But nonetheless, he's able to really make a big impact on a very good defensive team in Dallas, FC Dallas this year, and has good athleticism, is very proficient on the ball, can make line breaking passes. So we're interested to see how he can make that next step. There's some things that we saw that we know he needs to continue to work on, but this is a great opportunity for him to get in this group and show what he can do with the elite young players in Major League Soccer.
Next will be Jose Nunez.
Good afternoon. Thank you, Greg. Would love to hear from you, maybe some commentary in terms of what the Philadelphia Union pipeline has been for the U.S. men's national team over the last couple of years, or decade, really, with the Aronson brothers, Trusty, McKenzie. Now you're adding McGlynn and Harriel. And then on Harriel being another topic or another question, what do you see in him coming in for his first ever call-up, and really the rise that he's had over the last year in terms of joining the U23s earlier or late 2023?
Yeah, that's, again, we talk about the pathway. We talk about everyone having different journeys, but Nathan's been an outstanding performer, very good 1v1 defender. And, really, I think really has earned this call up through his defensive play with Philadelphia. They're another very good defensive team. And when I'm speaking to Jim Curtin about Nathan reaching out, that's one thing that they talk about is his defensive work is outstanding. We like to get our fullbacks forward and in the attack, and so we're really looking forward to seeing how he translates that part of his game. But overall, Philly, it's when you think about youth development, they're one of the early adapters to that and put a lot of resources towards it, and it's no surprise that now they're able to produce players like Jack McGlynn, Mark McKenzie, Austin Trusty, the Aronson brothers, Nathan Harriel, and it's a great model, I think, for other clubs. When you look at FC Dallas, they've been able to do something similar. Red Bull's done that as well, and it really, I think, helps connect with your community, and then also provide sustainability for your franchise, because you have assets that you're developing and grooming through your organization.
Take a few more questions. Continue with Donald Wine.
Thank you, Michael, and hello, Greg. Happy New Year to you both. I want to follow up on a couple of questions earlier from Jonathan and Ryan about Brandon Vasquez and Cade Cowell. Vasquez, of course, moving to Monterrey. Cade Cowell, it seems like reportedly considering a move to Liga MX. A while back, there was a wave where a lot of American players were going to Mexico. In your mind, what kind of dynamic does that add to the national team pool in general, considering that most guys are playing either in Europe or Major League Soccer? And I guess the second question I have is, last night, you saw Victor Wembanyama in action. Is there any thought on adding 7'4" guys to the national team player pool?
That would be amazing. I mean, that's the goal for us as U.S. Soccer, is to grow the game. When we think about growing the game, is us making soccer an accessible sport and making soccer available to everyone and everyone excited about it. And that's why I think our team and the women's senior team are on this journey to really captivate the U.S. public and get everyone into soccer. And I think when you can start tapping into athletes like Victor, the sky's the limit for what we can achieve as a nation in soccer. And so hopefully over the next couple of years, the public can really get to know our players, and we can perform really well, that we bring people along in our journey. But talking about Vasquez and Cade Cowell, I'm really excited for Brendan. He's a guy that we've been familiar with for years, watching him first at Atlanta, and then for his breakout in Cincinnati. And he's worked tremendously hard for this opportunity. And I think that when you can score goals in any league consistently, there's an opportunity for you with the national team. And so now, as we follow him in Liga MX, it will be really intriguing to see how he adapts to the level of play and how he can able to make an impact there. And with Cade, for him, again, it's just about how he can continue to grow as a player. He's still a very young player, And how does he keep adding pieces to his game? And when he gets opportunities with the national team, take advantage of that. And then when he gets in his club situation, as I mentioned, just having a stable situation where he could be a high performer on his team is going to be an important next step for him.
Next is Jake Fenner.
Thank you, Michael. Hi there, Greg. It's been talked about before, both here and in the announcement, that people have used the opportunity for January camps to make World Cups. Now, there's not a World Cup coming up this year, but it's very evidenced by the fact that there were 17 players without a cap selected, all younger guys, that you might be looking at this as a chance to get some looks at people before the Olympic team. Are you kind of viewing this as like a de facto Olympic tryout, or is it more a matter of you haven't capped any of these guys, you just kind of want to see what they can offer the team?
No, I think this January camp does have a different look. And the reason why is because the Olympics are coming up and we're able to use this opportunity to purposely bring in Olympic age eligible players. And you see they make up a large portion of the roster. The Olympic team head coach is going to be joining our staff in this camp. So it is, this is purposely designed to give the younger players an opportunity to really, put their name forward for the Olympic pool. In the meantime, there's a number of other players that have the opportunity to do something differently. And, when you think of our senior team, there's a lot of players that are Olympic age eligible. And so it's not about how old you are, it's about how good you are. And so I think any player in this camp has an opportunity to show that they should be part of the senior team on a regular basis. And then for the Olympic guys, it's more earmarked as well to work with their coach and show their coach what they can do.
Total of 13 players on this roster age eligible for the Olympics this summer. Our last question comes from Bill Dennison.
Hey, Coach, how you doing today? Happy New Year to you.
Hey, Bill.
Just wanted
the last one.
Well, I'm the caboose. That's all right with me. I appreciate it. Talk to me, Coach, about taking 3 players from FC Cincinnati, relatively young, not have been in the MLS Supporter Shield winners, and then also go over, Roman Celentano. Of course, we got Miles Robinson here and Ian Murphy. I appreciate it. Good luck.
Thank you. Roman's had a great season. And we've talked to their staff about Roman for the last couple of years, and they've been very high on his potential. And it'll be nice to work with him and see what he can do at this level. With Miles, Miles is a standout for both Major League Soccer and for the national team in the last 4 years. It will be good to get him back and really lean on his leadership and experience for some of the younger players in this camp. And then with Ian, Ian's a complete new addition to the senior group, very athletic, I think high potential, and really we're interested to see how he I think rises to the level, but also accepts the challenge of the level and really embraces what this challenge means to him and how he can be competitive and really push to get called in again.
Thanks, Greg. Thanks, everyone, for joining this afternoon. We'll have our availability schedule later next week. In the meantime, have a good afternoon.